So we've touched on this very, very briefly, but I think it is worth talking about more. And that is the fact that the Lib Dems ultimately really are the party to watch for the next couple of years. Really well and truly. You see, there was a time where a couple of years ago, the Lib Dems looked as if they were a completely spent force, that there was nothing they could really do to get any attention, that they just weren't breaking through, that their messaging just was not working. And for a political party, that's a very, very bad situation to be in. Now, roll around to this election, and instantly the game has now changed. The game has now fundamentally changed completely. Where Ed Davey recently at the Lib Dem conference put out the store that they currently, as the third party, should become, and their aim is to become, the main party of opposition, to completely and absolutely push the Tories into third place. And that, bear in mind, if you said that right at the start of this year, maybe even 2 years ago, if Ed Davey was heard saying that, that would be laughed out of the door. Like, people just would go, no, that's not going to happen. That's ridiculous. How on earth could the Lib Dems become the main party of opposition? But here's the thing, it's happened. And as things stand in our current bizarre electoral situation, it is bizarre. You've got Labour, massive majority. The Tories have had their worst result in over 100 years with just 121 MPs. The Lib Dems very close behind them on 78, I want to say. And then, there's a number of independents in there. I think 7 independents, 4 Greens, 4 Reform MPs, and I think, there are other parties as well, but those are the ones worth mentioning, really, at the moment. And it does go to show you, we just have a weird system at the moment, a really weird system going on. And it's not just down to first past the post or anything like that. I just think at the moment, people really, really want to see good politics and good politics being done. And bear in mind, Labour already is doing that. The renting reform bill that they've put forward, really, really good. Going to give a lot of power to renters than they never had. Angela Rayner at the Labour conference said she wants to go even further with some of the stuff for renters. The workers' rights bill that they've got coming out as well, also really good as well, expanding more powers for unions. You may disagree with it. Winter fuel allowance. I've said before, the real conversation needs to be had. Where does that, line go to who does and who doesn't get it? I think that is a perfect conversation to have. I think it's a very valid conversation to have. But I do not think, to be honest, it should be a universal benefit when a lot of pensioners really don't need it, if we are quite perfectly honest. And a lot of pensioners themselves out there, if they are perfectly honest, don't really need it. But they're just upset that they're not getting it anymore. But then I suppose that's however anyone I suspect would probably feel about these things. There is a lot of stuff going on really at the moment that, Labour are doing. And again, the winter fuel allowance, I think, mountain out of a molehill, does need to be means tested. I think the argument really needs to be had. Where does that means testing line fall? We'll see what happens when we come with the budget. We'll see what happens in a couple of other weeks' time when they're going to sort of start dropping some other bills as well in the next coming weeks. But there's some interesting stuff coming through. But back to the Lib Dems. One thing the Lib Dems really, really need, and I generally do say this, and I think Martin Kettle, so I want to bring up Martin Kettle's here article because he said something very similar about this. Working with Labour, the Lib Dems could exile the Tories for a generation. They could completely annihilate and push the Conservatives into the margins of politics, just as the Conservatives just as the Tories and Labour did back to the Liberals in the 1920s. He's right on that. But as something else he points out, he needs Labour to swing. He needs Labour to swing. They need Labour to do well. They need to rely on Labour's success. And both the Lib Dems and Labour are actually a lot closer on a couple of things than I think either party wants to really believe. There's the whole thing about, electoral reform that they could very easily work together on. There's a ton of different areas they could work together on. But getting that would be a very, very big boon for them. So I just want to read this too. So they have to rely on Labour's success too. That is because the Lib Dems need Labour to maintain its own 2024 wins in the face of now renewed challenges from the Tories, Reform UK, the Greens, and Independents. A 5% swing against Labour next time would not just upset Davey's arithmetical hopes of replacing the Tories, but it would also mark a very big change in the political weather, which would make further Lib Dem progressives far tougher too. The Lib Dems now have an interest in Labour's success and vice versa. I think that is very true. There's not a lot of people, I think, in the Lib Dems are really going to admit, but that is true. They need Labour to maintain its 2024 wins. And if they can maintain those wins, that is when the Lib Dems can then work on those Tory areas, really sort of get those areas as well. But there are legitimately a lot of threats out there now. And again, politics is going to be, interesting. And it is worth saying that if the Gaza situation was not a thing in the 2024 election, then there are certain questions that should be asked. Would those independents have actually won their seat? I don't think they would have, if we are being perfectly honest, because they all ran on on that being their main issue. But I've always said single issues and single issue MPs like that, soon as that becomes, that situation is either resolved or it finishes or it ends some way, then what? There's already talks with some of them trying to ally with Corbyn, maybe even making some sort of potential new party. Who knows? Of course, that's going to upset the Greens because they want Corbyn to join their party. That's something else they discussed at the Green conference as well. Because again, a lot of the disaffected people, the Corbynites, went and joined the Green Party. That's why they had the whole conversation about not wanting to water down their politics as the rest of the European Green parties had done as well, because widening your electoral base and widening the target, so that's somehow a bad thing. But there you go. So yeah, will this work? Could they get it done? Yes, I do think there is a big opportunity here, that if the Lib Dems and the Labour government do work together, because remember, the Lib Dems do need, you know, the Labour to succeed as well, given, Ed Davey's sort of ambition. If he really wants to fulfill that ambition, he needs Labour to maintain its 2024 wins. We'll see what happens. But this is something that we should definitely be keeping an eye on for the next couple of years, what the Lib Dems going to do. Can they maintain their messaging? Can they get their messaging out once again? Can they become effective communicators in the areas where they need to win to become the main party of opposition? Ed Davey has already shown that can happen. Remember when we did the videos about Ed Davey's grand, adventure political holiday? every single location he was visiting was a crucial point he needed to win. And guess what? That turned out big benefits for the Lib Dems when they did that. May have, been Ed Davey, doing a bungee jump, but hey, can't argue with the results that he got. Cannot argue with the results he got at this general election. So who knows? But it would be interesting, I think, to talk to someone in the Lib Dem party just to get really what their sense is, coming on from this, what their aims and goals are, and stuff like that. But yeah, maybe I'll try and set something up sometime with maybe someone from there, but we'll see. As always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.